Okay. Gonna start now. Havdalla, Matzoi, Shabbat. Finishing the Shabbat that we bless the new month of the year for this coming Friday and Shabbat. Going into the first full week of activity, a work week, whatever work week means now at this period of time. El Yeshua si eftach lo yefod ki yazi v'zimras yo Adonai v'yehi Lishua Ushiaftamayim Besasoin Mimayin Yeshua Ladoyino Yeshua Chaselo Adinoi Tevoi Simanu Mizgavlanu Elhei Yaakov Selo Adinoi Tevoi Sashre Yodam Boi Adinoi Hoyashia Amelach Yaneinu Beyavoim Kareinu La Yehudim Hoysayira Vesiyimcha Sasain Vikar Kenti Elanu Kaisishwaisesa Shem Adonai Ekra Sabri Maranan Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Amen. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'orei minei b'samim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'orei minei haolam.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechel ben Or lecheshem Yisrael Amin ben Yoim Ashvi l'sheish b'shimei Hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechel.
Amen.
Amen. חטאותינו למחול בכל לילה.
Shavua tov, Shavua tov.
Shavuot Tov. Tomorrow at what time is?
Tomorrow at 9:30. But we're going to do a story now. We're going to move the computer and we'll sit down. Where's the matches? I'm going to do a story. I'll read the story of the Baal Shem Tov. And while we light the candle, We'll sing Eliyahu Hanavi.
Eliyahu Hatishbi.
Tishbi. Eliyahu, 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 So, for our weekly story, thank you, Rosie, for lighting it. You know, it says that Matzah Shabbat, you're supposed to have 2 candles lit because it's part of the Shabbat. We do the Malava Malka. We don't have food here, but we escort the Shabbat queen, and we have candles for every part of Shabbat. The beginning, the Havdalla, we continue. The candles will burn through Havdalla. So I want to share with you a story of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov made a name for himself very early on when he revealed himself to start leading, and he performed many miracles. So besides being an incredible leader, inspiring, teaching at the highest levels, the simplest people, but people came to him, and many open miracles happened with the Baal Shem Tov. And here's a beautiful story, one of the stories of the Baal Shem Tov. So in his time, he was new. The whole idea of Hasidism and the Baal Shem Tov's ways was different than all the other Jewish leadership at the time. And that's why they were called the Hasidim, the people who went above and beyond the letter of the law, try to be stronger. There was a lot of opposition to them. And there were many people who were on the sidelines. They weren't sure, is this hocus pocus? Is it real? Is the Baal Shem Tov really a great man? So there was one such fellow who was a very wealthy man, and he heard about the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, you know what, I'm wealthy, I'm learned. If the Baal Shem Tov really is a tzaddik and a great Jew, I'm very happy to be connected with him. But if he's not, then I'll make sure that no one else connects to him either. So he decided he wants to go check out the Baal Shem Tov. On one of his business trips, he takes a detour, and he passed by the city of Mezhebush where the Baal Shem Tov dwelled. And he comes to the city, talks to the Gabbai, the helper of the Rebbe. He said he wants a private audience, a yichidut, and he says, fine. And he arranges him to go in. And when he comes in, so the Baal Shem Tov says, Shalom Aleichem, welcome. What can I help you with? So the man said, I'll tell you the truth. I heard about you. I just wanted to get a chance to see you. I don't know who you are, and whatever everything they say about you is true. So I wanted to come here. I didn't come for anything. I just came to see you and to check you out. So Baal Shem Tov says, listen, nobody travels or goes anywhere for nothing. Everything is planned by Hashem. So I'd like to share with you a story. Do you have a moment? And I said, yeah, sure, I have a moment. He said, I'll tell you a story. He said, a number of years ago, there were 2 children, grew up as very close friends in a certain town. And their friendship was incredible. They shared everything. They shared their learning, their fun times, everything they had, they shared with each other. But then they grew up, time for marriage. They both ended up marrying girls from different towns. And they moved to the towns where their wives came from. So they sort of disconnected from each other. But they had a long lifetime of friendship and like brotherhood that they loosely stayed in touch. Anyways, they both became very successful in business. Vayihi Hayoim, as they say, came one day that one of them went through a difficult time, lost all his money, was heavily in debt, and he was thinking, who can help me at this time? And he remembers my friend, my dear friend, my childhood friend, I heard he's doing well. You know, he's told me in his last few times I spoke to him, maybe he'll help me. So he borrows money to make the trip. He goes to his friend's house. His friend opens up the door and he sees his old friend. They embrace, welcomes him into his house. How are you? And they sit and they talk. He gives them a meal. And then afterwards he says, listen, I know you didn't come just to say hi. Is everything all right? He says, no, I'll tell you the truth. I lost all my money. I'm heavily in debt. Even to come here, I had to borrow money. And I know, you're a dear friend. Maybe you can help me. So the person who came to his friend, we'll call him Yankel, said, sure, what kind of question? He calls in his accountant, and he says, count up what I have quickly. And he counts up his entire fortune, and he says, this is my fortune. I'm going to give you half. We're brothers, we're friends, we shared everything before in our life. I'll give you half of my fortune. Go back and may Hashem be with you. So the guy went back, paid off his debt, started up again, became a very wealthy man again. Meanwhile, Yankel, who gave the money to his friend, all of a sudden things started to go sour and he lost his money. He was big in debt. And he says, who am I going to go to? My friend who I helped. I'm sure he'll be there to help me as well. So he goes and makes the trip. He knocks on the door, beautiful mansion, beautiful home. He knocks on the door, and some servant answers the door, and he says, who are you here for? He says, tell the Mr. So-and-so, Beryl, tell Beryl that his friend Yankel is here from this in this town. The servant comes back a few minutes later, says, Yankel, Beryl doesn't know who you are. Never heard of you. Starts going, what do you mean he never heard of me? Beryl never heard of me. Well, how could that be? I'm his friend. I gave him half my money. Ellen, you sure he told him the right name? Meanwhile, he hears shouting in the background, tell that beggar to get away. Doesn't he want, I want peace and quiet in my home. And the guy slams the door in his face, the servant. And he's thinking, wow, my last hope. This guy who I helped doesn't help me. And he didn't even make it 100 feet from the house. And he had a heart attack and he died. Not long after, this very wealthy man who threw him out of the house also died. And they both came to Shemayim. Both of their souls came to heaven. So they said that Yankel goes straight to Gan Eden. Look what he did. He gave half of his fortune to his friend. But Beryl, straight to Gehinnom, straight to purgatory, straight to hell. Look how he treated his friend. A guy who helped him and he threw him out of his house, he caused him to die. But Yankel said, my dear friend, Beryl, is going to go to Gehinnom, to hell because of me? Impossible, he's my friend. He told heaven, you can't do this. You can't put him in purgatory. So heaven said, so what should we do? So he said, maybe put us down on earth again. We should come back in a reincarnation, both of us, and give him a chance to rectify his act, by this time doing kindness. So that's what they did. They brought them back again. In 2 different towns they were born. Beryl was born again as a wealthy man, Yankel as a poor man. And one day Yankel ends up in front of Beryl's door. They have different names now, obviously. He ends up in front of his door. And he knocks on the door. And he knocks on the door, and the door opens up slightly, and the owner of the home looks at this poor man, muddy shoes, and he says, what are you doing at the doorstep of my home? Your muddy shoes already made the doorstep dirty. You're going to dirty my home? What are you doing here? He says, I need food. Food? Don't you know? Everyone in this town knows I don't give anybody any money. I don't help anybody. Work on your own. What are you lazy for? Go work. He says, please, I haven't eaten for 3 days. Give me something. And he slams the door on the poor person. The poor person doesn't get down the steps of the home, and he faints and he dies. As the Baal Shem Tov finishes the story, the man sitting in front of him's face becomes white, pale. And he says, Rebbe, that happened to me last week. A poor guy dressed so dirty and muddy came to my door and I slammed the door. That's me. Is this my story? The Baal Shem Tov said, this is your story. This is who you are. So he starts crying. He says, does that mean I'm doomed? I'm never going to be able to go to Gan Eden after the way I behaved? The Baal Shem Tov says, there's still a way that you can help yourself. Find the family of this person who you didn't feed. Give them all the money they need to live for a long time, and give the rest of your money to all the poor and destitute people of your town. and pray to Hashem, because Hashem never really closes a door on someone who does tshuva. So here, this is the story of the Baal Shem Tov, and I think there's a beautiful lesson that nothing in life happens by chance. Everything is hashgacha pratit, everything is divine providence. And at the end of the day, Hashem is always looking to help us find ways to do mitzvah, to do good things, and if we got to it, we did the wrong thing, to try to rectify and to make it up. So as we go to a new week, may Hashem carry our steps in a way that we should be doing more good things, even if our steps are not taking us much out of our home, but our steps with our hands, with our mouth, with our phones, with our computers, and wherever we are and wherever we're in touch with, to do more good deeds and more beautiful things, and to bring bracha for us and in our homes.
Hazak u'baruch.
This is the story of Shavua Tov. We love you all.
Koyach,
Tomorrow
likewise.
morning, 9:30.
Zay geben.
Shavua tov.
Shavua Tov.
Bye, Litra.
Thank you.
Bye.